Elena Ramirez sat at her desk, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she poured her heart into the latest article she was writing. The words flowed effortlessly, weaving a tapestry of emotions and ideas that captivated her readers. But as she glanced at the clock, a wave of anxiety washed over her. It was already past midnight, and Isabella, her 16-year-old daughter, was still not home. Elena's mind raced with worry. Was Isabella safe? Had something happened to her? The familiar knot of fear tightened in her chest, a constant companion in the roller coaster of emotions that was her life with bipolar disorder. Just a few hours earlier, Elena had been filled with boundless energy and creativity, her mind buzzing with ideas. She had laughed and joked with Isabella, sharing stories and dreams. But now the darkness had descended, and the familiar feelings of emptiness and despair threatened to consume her. She tried to focus on her work, but the words blurred on the screen. Her thoughts drifted to Isabella, her beautiful, intelligent daughter, who deserved a stable and loving mother. Elena's heart ached with guilt. She knew her unpredictable moods and episodes of depression were taking a toll on Isabella, but she felt powerless to control them. Finally, she heard the key turning in the lock. Isabella walked in, her face flushed and her eyes bright with excitement. "Sorry I'm late, Mom," she said breathlessly. "I was hanging out with Sarah and we lost track of time." Elena's relief was palpable. She embraced Isabella tightly, her heart overflowing with love and gratitude. "I was so worried," she whispered. "Please, next time, let me know where you are." Isabella hugged her back, her voice muffled against Elena's shoulder. "I will, Mom. I promise." As they pulled apart, Elena studied her daughter's face, searching for any signs of resentment or disappointment. But all she saw was love and understanding. Isabella had learned to navigate the unpredictable waters of her mother's illness with grace and resilience. Elena sighed, a mixture of sadness and gratitude swirling within her. She knew she wasn't the perfect mother, but she loved Isabella more than anything in the world, and she was determined to find a way to manage her illness, to create a more stable and loving home for her daughter. The next morning, Elena woke up feeling surprisingly calm and centered. The darkness that had threatened to engulf her the night before had receded, leaving a sense of clarity and purpose in its wake. She made breakfast for Isabella, humming a cheerful tune as she flipped pancakes and brewed coffee. Isabella, noticing the change in her mother's demeanor, smiled warmly. "Good morning, Mom," she said, taking a seat at the kitchen table. "You seem happy today." Elena returned her smile, pouring a cup of coffee for her daughter. "I am, sweetheart. I had a good night's sleep and I'm feeling optimistic about the day." They chatted over breakfast, sharing stories about their plans for the day. Isabella had a school project to finish, while Elena planned to work on a new article. The atmosphere was light and easy, a welcome contrast to the tension that often hung in the air. As Isabella left for school, Elena couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude. She cherished these moments of connection with her daughter, the shared laughter and the unspoken understanding that flowed between them. But she also knew that the fragile balance could easily be disrupted by her unpredictable moods. Later that day, while researching for her article, Elena stumbled upon an online forum for people with bipolar disorder. She hesitated for a moment, then clicked on the link. The stories she read resonated with her own experiences, the highs and lows, the struggles with medication, the fear of judgment. For the first time, Elena felt a sense of belonging. She wasn't alone in her battle against the darkness. There were others who understood the complexities of her illness, who offered support and encouragement. That night, Elena shared her discovery with Isabella. "I found this online forum for people with bipolar disorder," she said, her voice tentative. "It's been really helpful to read other people's stories and realize that I'm not alone." Isabella listened intently, her eyes filled with compassion. "That's great, Mom. she said. "I'm glad you found a place where you can connect with others who understand what you're going through." Elena reached out and squeezed Isabella's hand. "Thank you, sweetheart. It means a lot to have your support." In that moment, Elena felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, with the right tools and support, she could learn to manage her illness and create a more stable life for herself and Isabella. As the weeks turned into months, a subtle shift occurred in the dynamics between Elena and Isabella. Elena's mood swings, though still present, became less frequent and intense. She diligently took her medication and attended therapy sessions, determined to gain control over her illness. Isabella, noticing her mother's efforts, felt a sense of relief. She no longer walked on eggshells, constantly anticipating the next emotional outburst. However, a new burden began to weigh on her shoulders, the weight of responsibility. With Elena's focus on her own well-being, Isabella found herself taking on more household chores and responsibilities. She cooked dinner, did the laundry, and made sure the bills were paid on time. She even started helping her mother with her freelance writing business, proofreading articles, and managing her social media accounts. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at school, Isabella snapped. "Mom, I can't do this anymore," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not your therapist, I'm your daughter. I need you to be my mom, not the other way around." Elena's heart sank. She saw the exhaustion and frustration in Isabella's eyes, and she felt a wave of guilt wash over her. She had been so focused on her own struggles that she hadn't realized the toll it was taking on her daughter. "I'm so sorry, Isabella," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I never meant to burden you like this. I'm trying my best, but it's hard." Isabella looked at her mother, her anger melting into sadness. "I know, Mom," she said softly. "I love you and I want to help you, but I'm just a kid. I need you to be strong for me too." Elena reached out and embraced her daughter, tears streaming down her face. She knew Isabella was right. She needed to find a way to balance her own needs with her responsibilities as a mother. She couldn't let her illness define her or rob Isabella of the childhood she deserved. The tension in the Ramirez household simmered for weeks, a delicate tightrope stretched between Elena's fragile recovery and Isabella's growing resentment. Elena, though making progress in therapy, still experienced occasional mood swings, leaving Isabella on edge, never knowing which version of her mother she would encounter each day. One morning, Elena woke up feeling an overwhelming sense of despair. The world seemed bleak and hopeless, and the smallest tasks felt insurmountable. She canceled her therapy appointment, pulled the covers over her head, and retreated into the darkness of her bedroom. Days turned into a blur of missed meals, unanswered phone calls, and unread messages. Isabella tried to coax her mother out of bed, but Elena remained unresponsive, her voice a mere whisper. The once vibrant and creative woman was now a shadow of her former self, consumed by the depths of her depression. Isabella's anxiety grew with each passing day. She felt helpless and alone, unsure of what to do or where to turn. The weight of her mother's illness pressed down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. One afternoon, after school, Isabella confided in her school counselor, Miss Thompson. Tears welled up in her eyes as she described her mother's condition and her own feelings of helplessness. Miss Thompson listened patiently, her expression a mix of concern and compassion. "Isabella, it's important to remember that you're not alone," she said gently. "Your mother's illness is not your fault, and you can't be responsible for her happiness. It's okay to ask for help." Isabella nodded, her voice trembling. "But what if she gets worse? What if I can't handle it?" Ms. Thompson reassured her, explaining that there were resources available to help both Elena and Isabella. She encouraged Isabella to reach out to a local support group for teenagers with parents who have mental illness and to consider contacting a mental health professional for her mother. Isabella left the counselor's office, feeling a glimmer of hope. She realized that she didn't have to carry this burden alone. There were people who understood her struggles and who could offer guidance and support. Armed with newfound determination, Isabella returned home and gently knocked on her mother's bedroom door. "Mom, can I come in?" she asked softly. There was no response, but Isabella slowly opened the door and stepped inside. The room was shrouded in darkness, the curtains drawn tightly shut. Elena lay curled up in bed, her face pale and her eyes vacant. Isabella sat on the edge of the bed, her heart aching for her mother. "Mom, I'm worried about you," she said, her voice trembling. "You haven't been yourself lately. I think you need to see a doctor." Elena turned her head slightly, her voice a mere whisper. "I'm fine, honey. Just tired." Isabella shook her head, her resolve hardening. "No, Mom, you're not fine. You haven't eaten in days, you haven't left your room, and you're not taking your medication. Please let me help you." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to be a burden," she whispered. "I don't want you to have to deal with this." Isabella took her mother's hand, her touch gentle but firm. "Mom, you're not a burden. I love you and I want you to get better. Please, let's go see Dr. Martinez. He can help you." Elena hesitated, her mind battling the darkness that threatened to consume her. But Isabella's unwavering love and support gave her the strength she needed. With a deep sigh, she nodded her head. The next day, Isabella accompanied her mother to Dr. Martinez's office. The psychiatrist listened patiently as Elena described her symptoms and her struggles with medication. He adjusted her dosage and encouraged her to continue attending therapy sessions. As they left the office, Elena felt a flicker of hope. She knew the road to recovery would be long and challenging, but she was no longer alone. Isabella was by her side, offering her love and support every step of the way. With the support of her therapist and medication adjustments, Elena gradually began to emerge from the depths of her depression. The darkness lifted, and the world slowly regained its color and vibrancy. She started attending therapy sessions regularly, exploring the root causes of her illness, and developing coping mechanisms to manage her mood swings. Isabella, meanwhile, found solace and understanding in a support group for teenagers with parents who have mental illness. She connected with other young people facing similar challenges, sharing their experiences and offering each other encouragement. The group provided a safe space for Isabella to express her fears and frustrations, and to learn from others who had walked a similar path. As Elena's condition improved, she and Isabella began to communicate more openly about her illness. They talked about the triggers that could set off a mood swing, the warning signs of an impending episode, and the strategies they could use to navigate these difficult moments together. One evening, over a cup of tea, Elena turned to Isabella and said, "I want you to know how much I appreciate your support, sweetheart. I know it hasn't been easy for you, and I'm so grateful for your love and understanding." Isabella reached across the table and took her mother's hand. "I love you too, Mom," she said softly, "and I'm here for you, always." Elena's eyes welled up with tears. She had been so afraid of burdening Isabella, of pushing her away with her illness. But Isabella's unwavering love and acceptance had shown her that their bond was stronger than any challenge they might face. In the following weeks, a new sense of normalcy settled over the Ramirez household. Elena continued her therapy and medication, learning to manage her illness with greater confidence. Isabella focused on her studies and her friendships, while also making time to support her mother. They learned to communicate openly and honestly, to set boundaries, and to respect each other's needs. The roller coaster of emotions was still there, but they had learned to ride it together, their bond strengthened by the shared experience. Life with bipolar disorder was still a challenge for Elena, but she had learned to navigate its ups and downs with greater resilience and self-awareness. she continued to attend therapy sessions where she explored the root causes of her illness and developed coping mechanisms to manage her mood swings. Medication helped to stabilize her moods, but it was the combination of therapy, self-care, and Isabella's unwavering support that truly made a difference. Isabella, too, had grown from her experiences. She had learned to set boundaries, to prioritize her own well-being, and to communicate her needs effectively. The support group had provided her with a community of understanding, and she no longer felt alone in her struggles. One afternoon, as Elena was working on a particularly challenging article, she felt a familiar wave of anxiety wash over her. Her thoughts raced, and her chest tightened. Recognizing the signs of an impending mood swing, she took a deep breath and stepped away from her computer. She went to the kitchen, where Isabella was preparing a snack. "Honey, I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed," Elena said, her voice shaking slightly. "I think I need some quiet time." Isabella looked up from the cutting board, her eyes filled with concern. "Of course, Mom," she said, putting down her knife. "Do you want me to make you some tea? Or maybe we can go for a walk?" Elena smiled gratefully. "Tea sounds lovely, thank you. And maybe later, if I'm feeling up to it, we can take a walk." Isabella prepared a cup of chamomile tea and brought it to her mother, who was now sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. Elena took a sip, the warmth spreading through her body. She closed her eyes and focused on her breathing, the calming scent of chamomile filling her senses. After a few minutes, Elena felt her anxiety subside. She opened her eyes and looked at Isabella, who was sitting beside her, reading a book. "Thank you, sweetheart," she said, her voice soft. "I'm feeling much better now." Isabella smiled. "I'm glad, Mom. Remember, I'm always here for you." Elena reached out and squeezed Isabella's hand. She knew that their relationship had been tested, but it had also emerged stronger and more resilient. They had found a new balance, a way to navigate the challenges of mental illness with love, understanding, and mutual support. Years passed, and Elena and Isabella continued their journey together, navigating the complexities of life and the challenges of mental illness with grace and resilience. Elena's bipolar disorder remained a part of their lives, but it no longer defined them. With the help of therapy, medication, and a strong support system, Elena had learned to manage her moods and live a fulfilling life. She continued to write, her words inspiring and empowering others who struggled with mental health challenges. Isabella blossomed into a confident young woman, pursuing her own dreams while remaining a steadfast source of love and support for her mother. One sunny afternoon, Elena and Isabella sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky with vibrant hues. Elena reached for Isabella's hand, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become, Isabella," she said, her voice filled with love. "You've taught me so much about strength, resilience, and unconditional love." Isabella smiled, her eyes sparkling with affection. "And you've taught me so much about compassion, creativity, and the importance of never giving up, Mom. We've been through a lot together, but we've made it through, stronger than ever." Elena nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "We have," she said softly, "and we'll continue to face whatever challenges come our way, together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Elena and Isabella sat in comfortable silence, their hands intertwined. They had learned to embrace the complexities of their relationship, to navigate the ups and downs with love and understanding. Their journey was far from over, but they faced the future with hope and optimism, knowing that they had each other to lean on, no matter what life threw their way.